President Donald Trump says the United States will send sophisticated equipment to Ukraine. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. To begin the news this afternoon, we head to the national scene where the presidential delegation, dispatched by President Bola Tinubu to oversee the repatriation of the late President Muhammad Buhari's remains, has arrived in London. The team, led by Vice President Kashim Shettima and supported by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbadagbiamila, touched down in the United Kingdom today. The delegation was formally received at the airport by Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Juga, and Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum. A brief update provided by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Office of the Vice President, Stanley Umogocha, confirmed the arrival. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has ordered that the national flag be flown at half-mast for 7 days to mourn the passing of former President Muhammad Buhari. The directive was issued following the announcement of Buhari's death in the United Kingdom. According to a statement signed by the Director of Information, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Shegun Imosian, on behalf of the SGF George Akume, the flag lowering began yesterday and will run through Saturday, July 19, 2025. Akume, who spoke on behalf of the Federal Executive Council, described Buhari as a patriot, statesman, and disciplined leader who served Nigeria with honor and integrity. He also announced that an emergency Federal Executive Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 15, to pay tribute to the late leader. He extended condolences to former First Lady Aisha Buhari, the entire Buhari family, and the government and people of Katsina State. The SGF prayed for the peaceful repose of the former president's soul and for Almighty Allah to grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus. In the meantime, First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has described the late former President Muhammadu Buhari as a leader who served the country with unwavering commitment, integrity, and a deep love for his people. In a condolence message, the First Lady expressed profound grief over the death of the two-time Nigerian leader who passed away in London following a prolonged illness. She held Buhari's legacy as one rooted in courage, conviction, and service to the nation. Senator Luremi noted that the late president would be remembered as a man of principle whose leadership was defined by a tireless advocacy for justice and good governance. She praised the steadfast belief in the potential of every Nigerian and his lifelong dedication to the common good. Still on the matters concerning national grief, the National Assembly has suspended all legislative activities in honor of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away yesterday in London, United Kingdom. In an official statement signed by the clerk to the National Assembly, Kalmaru Ogunlana, the leadership of both chambers, Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, announced the suspension, which will last until Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Lawmakers were advised to reschedule all official and personal engagements to allow full participation in the burial arrangements and tributes to the late former president. The leadership of the National Assembly also expressed deep condolences to the nation and the family of the deceased leader. President Muhammadu Buhari, who previously served as a military head of state and later as a two-term democratically elected president, was widely recognized for his dedication to national unity and his integrity. In a related development, the Southern Governors Forum SGF has expressed deep sorrow over the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari, describing his passing as a great loss to the nation. In a statement issued on behalf of the forum's chairman, Governor Dakpo Abiodun of Ogun State, by his special advisor on media and strategy, Kayode Akimade, the SGF said Buhari's death was a moment of national reflection on the values he embodied. The governors noted that Buhari, who led the country both as a military ruler and democratically elected president, was dedicated to public service and the advancement of the country. The SGF urged Nigerians to honor Buhari's memory by upholding the ideals he stood for. Meanwhile, former Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, retired CFR, also extolled the virtue of the late president in a condolence message. He expressed deep sorrow over the loss and extended his condolences to his family, the government, and the central public, describing late Buhari as a visionary leader whose legacy will continue to guide generations yet unborn. From the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives Committee on Foreign Affairs has summoned the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, to appear before it on Wednesday over matters of national importance. In a letter signed by the chairman, Oluwale Oke, the committee cited its constitutional and legislative powers to demand accountability and oversight from any ministry, department, or agency of government. The letter, routed through the ministry's liaison office at the National Assembly, pointed out five key concerns that necessitated urgent briefing. The letter instructed the minister to forward a detailed briefing note on or before Tuesday, the 15th of July 2025, and cause an appearance before the committee at the House of Representatives building, Abuja. But due to the suspension of all legislative activities by the National Assembly in honor of former President Muhammadu Buhari, Tuga's appearance before the Green Chambers has been postponed. On aviation matters, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria (FAAN) has confirmed that no casualties were recorded in the Port Harcourt runway incident involving a commercial flight P47190 from Lagos. This is contained in a statement signed by the Director, Public Affairs and Consumer Protection at FAAN, Obiageli Ora, in Lagos. According to reports, the incident, which occurred yesterday morning with the registration number 5NBQQ, departed Lagos and landed at the Port Harcourt International Airport at approximately 7:45 a.m., adding that the aircraft overshot runway 03 upon landing. She also reaffirmed FAN's commitment to the safety and security of the passengers. In Africa, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended Police Minister Shenzo Mukunu following serious allegations made by General Manglana Makwanazi, a top police official. Makwanazi accused Mukunu and Deputy Police Commissioner Shedrack Sibia of interfering in sensitive investigations and colluding with criminal syndicates. The suspension comes amid growing concern over alleged political interference within key law enforcement agencies. President Ramaphosa announced the decision publicly, stating, "For the Commission to execute its functions effectively, he decided to put the Minister of Police, Shenzo Mukunu, on a leave of absence with immediate effect." Ramaphosa was therefore appointed Professor Firoz Shakashalia as acting Minister of Police. Still in Africa, the electoral process of Gabon's local and legislative elections is officially underway. The timetable for the September 27 vote has been announced, and members of the National Election Commission have been sworn in by the Constitutional Court. According to report. The revision of electoral rolls across the country begins today and continues until August 12. According to the report, this will ensure new voters are added while deceased or ineligible voters are removed from the polls. On the foreign scene, President Donald Trump says the United States will send various pieces of very sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine. The US president confirmed that the equipment will include Patriot missile defense systems, which Ukraine desperately needs. Trump also criticizes Russia's President Putin for acting nice in public and bombing the next second. Recall that Ukraine's President Zelensky said last week that the US had resumed military supplies to Ukraine as Russian aerial attacks intensified. Still on the foreign scene, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian was reportedly slightly injured during one of Israel's attacks on Iran last month. According to reports, on the 16th of June, six bombs targeted both access and entry points of a secret underground facility in Tehran, where Pezeshkian was attending an emergency meeting of the Supreme National Security Council. The president is said to have suffered leg injuries as he and others escaped through an emergency shaft. Iran is now reported to be following leads of infiltration by Israeli agents. Still to come in the news. Arsenal to complete deals for three players this week. Stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. And now to the rest of the news stories. On our business news, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, has called for urgent and sustained investment in the global oil upstream oil sector, warning that a cumulative $14.9 trillion will be required between 2025 and 2050 to meet projected demand and prevent a future energy crisis. The investment figure, equivalent to $574 billion annually, represents the bulk of the $18.2 trillion in total oil related investment needed over the 25 years. OPEC had projected that $18.2 trillion in investment would be required to meet global oil demand between 2025 and 2050, as it dismissed the notion of a looming peak in fossil fuel consumption as a fantasy. This was revealed in the group's newly released 2025 World Oil Outlook, which anticipates oil demand rising from 103.7 million barrels per day in 2024 to 116.5 million barrels per day by 2045 and peaking at around 123 million barrels per day by 2050, an 18.6% increase over 26 years. Still, investors, oil marketers, and industry stakeholders have thrown their weight behind the proposed sale of Nigeria's refineries under the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, calling for transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability in the process. The noted that the sale of or privatization of the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries, which have gulped trillions of naira in rehabilitation and maintenance with little or no result, will finally open the downstream sector to competition, ensure better pricing, and stop what many describe as a financial black hole. Their reaction followed the recent revelation by the NNPC Group Chief Executive Officer Bayo Ojulari that rehabilitation works on the 445,000 barrels per day capacity refineries were not yielding the desired result due to how obsolete the facilities have become over the years. Ojulari, in an interview, admitted that the company is currently reassessing its refinery strategies and aims to finalize the review by year end. On a health news, the federal government is set to hold further high-level meetings with representatives of the Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) as tension grows over a controversial circular issued by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. According to the NMA President Professor Bola Aldu, at least three meetings had already been held between government officials and leaders of the NMA, with more talks expected between today and Wednesday. The NMA had on July 2nd issued an ultimatum in protest against the circular from the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission on revised allowances for medical and dental officers in the Federal Public Service, which the doctors kicked against for violating prior agreements. The association issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government to withdraw the circular and meet its other demands to avert industrial action in the health sector. Still in hell, the federal government has ordered immediate reforms in the emergency care services of the Federal Medical Center, Abuja. Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare Dr. Isaac Salako gave the order when he made an unannounced visit to the facility yesterday. Salako also disclosed the government's plan to launch a cross-country emergency care training program to standardize and enhance response capacity in public hospitals nationwide. The directive followed a public outcry over a viral video showing delayed attention to accident victims by the emergency unit of the hospital. Now to sports, where Arsenal will complete deals for at least three players this week as manager Mikel Arteta continues bolstering his squad this summer. Recall that the Gunners finally struck a deal to sign striker Victor Gyokeres from Sporting CP. Meanwhile, Arsenal will also try to wrap up the transfer of Noni Madueke from Chelsea in the coming days, and the negotiations for Valencia defender Christian Moresca will advance this week. Still in sports, Cole Palmer inspired a stunning Chelsea performance as they defeated European champions Paris Saint-Germain to win the first edition of the newly expanded Club World Cup. The England attacking midfielder scored twice and set up a brilliant third goal for new signing João Pedro in a comprehensive 3-0 win over informed PSG at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Palmer placed a low shot past goalkeeper Glauvi Donnarumma in the 22nd minute after Malo Gusto ran in behind Nuno Mendes, adding a second with a neat dummy and identical shot from the edge of the box just 8 minutes later. The game was all but over 85 minutes on when matters got worse for the Parisians as midfielder Neves was sent off after a brief VAR check for pulling defender Marc Curella's hair. PSG manager Luis Enrique will also face questions after appearing to slap Chelsea forward João Pedro in ugly post-match scenes, with unused substitute Prince Kempe having to pull away his coach. Among the 81,118 people in attendance, the biggest of the tournament was US President Donald Trump, who sat alongside FIFA President Gianni Infantino as Chelsea took their earnings to about £90 million as they became world champions. Lastly, on the news at this hour, on entertainment, a Lagos High Court sitting in Osborne Ikoyi has dismissed a £1 billion defamation suit filed by Nollywood actress Iyabo Ojo against her colleague Lizzie Anjorin. Justice Olabisi Akinlade, who presided over the matter, held that the suit was incompetent due to procedural defects and a fundamental flaw in the originating processes. The court also ordered Ojo's lawyer, Dr. Olabimpe Ajemokun, to pay 500,000 naira to Anjorin's lawyer, Barrister Ademola Olabiyi. The case was instituted by Iyabo Ojo, who sought 1 billion naira in damages for alleged defamation. And that's all we have on the news at this hour. Do well to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at 12. I am Uyai MM. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon.